it is the big issue in Rugby League this weekend. And before we start, this is because people have refused to buy newspapers and whatever because of what journalists and people have tweeted this week. This is not an anti-Warrington or anti-Cat. Well, no for France watchers.
Right. I'm ready for this. I'm ready.
Go on,
I tell you, I'm ready for this. When you just hear them from the disciplining point of view, right? I find it absolutely quite pathetic. Do you know why? Because when you're looking here, certainly what with football and stuff going on with football, this weekend at Manchester City and Liverpool down London on the tube and why we talk about hooligans, and then when we promote our game and we tell everybody about our game, we're a family game, and we want everybody to come and enjoy the experience, whether it's the first time, your 100th time, or the 1000th time. And then when we have something like this on Saturday, prevention cures everything. For anything to happen like this, it should be prevented. First of all, the referee was weak. I think there was two or three balls before it all kicked off from there. So I felt as though James Shall could have handled the game a bit better. They can't do anything off the field from there. And also at times when the players want to take on their own rules, as we would say. And also I felt as well the players at times didn't give the referee the respect what he deserved. The way they tried to referee the game from there. But James was a little bit weak. But anyway. So now, going on to these two clubs, and if you just saying there, Richard, that people are whinging and complaining, not by magazine because what press have said, there's no blame game here to anybody except the two clubs in Warrington and Catalans for what happened on Saturday. Warrington and Catalans for what happened on Saturday on the field and off the field. Now let me just read this here before I go on what I think should happen to these two clubs. There's a Warrington fan here who's put a bit in there and he was at the ground. And also said, I'm not saying that Warrington fans were angels, they weren't, and I'm not condoning their actions in the slightest, but what about this here? There are a fair few that follow us that like a scrap, but I've never seen anything like the provocation that was coming from Catalans section in my 30 years watching Warrington. Well, alright, if this is a Warrington fan, why isn't he telling the Warrington club regarding these hooligans, as so-called, who are supporting this club, who love a scrap, I would say, week in and week out? There's no blame game here to anybody except the two clubs in Warrington and Catalans for what happened on Saturday. And if I was in charge of the Rugby Football League, today I would have had the chairman of both clubs, I would have had the CEO of the both clubs, I would have had the coach of the both clubs, and I would have had the captains of the both clubs as well. And it's quite simple. Me as the head of the Rugby Football League, this is what's happening. I'm not blaming Warrington, I'm not blaming Catalans, I'm blaming you both 100%. There's not 75 Catalans, it's not 25% Warrington, it's not 75 Warrington, not 25% Catalans. You two clubs are to blame for what happened on Saturday, both on and off the field with the players, off the field with supporters. This is what's happening to you. And now, this is what I'm saying about prevention. And this tells everybody in Rugby League, certainly in Super League from there at the highest level. This prevents it. Prevention is the cure. So you, Warrington and Catalans, it's simple. You get a 4-point deduction and you fined £100,000. No blame game, you both caused that, and that's your punishment from the game, because this is all about Rugby League. Not about Catalans as a club, not about Warrington as a club, not about Super League. It's about the greatest game of all, and it's about Rugby League. And what we saw on Saturday, both from the players and certainly from a point of view of the supporters, we don't ever want to see that again. Severe punishment. If I was in charge, it's 4 points and £100,000, and there's no arguments or debate. Prevention cures everything.
I watched it unfold, and again, the first thing is we've only got the pictures that we saw very briefly from a French director, and we've only got some footage of people's cameras.
You don't watch on telephone?
Yeah. But we only saw whatever the French director showed us. It doesn't say who started it, and it doesn't say who was to blame for it. So the first thing that we need to do is ascertain the absolute fact, and that needs to come quickly, because the biggest problem we've had in Rugby League is that when these incidents have happened before, and we're fooling ourselves to think that this is the first time something like that's happened, it's taken far too long for any governing body to actually bring the parties to justice.
First point then, Phil, let me just say this. Catalans will blame Warrington, and Warrington will blame Catalans. Well, even now they're making excuses for the shooting, this sort of thing. There's no blame game here, there's no percentage here. The both of you two clubs caused this situation.
But there has to be an investigation into how it started and how it escalated. Because it might be that just because two clubs are involved in it, the blame isn't the same for each of them. We have to get to the bottom of what caused that. So the first thing we need to do is not believe everything that we're seeing on social media. One of the things that you would have seen early on is a so-called Warrington fan who had a split head from it. It's proved that it's a completely bogus account, that it was taken off the internet years before, and it was set up specifically to make everything look worse than it was and to apportion blame, and for somebody who had nothing to do with it to be seen to be involved in something that they weren't. So you've got to be very careful before you start apportioning things, but you cannot let this thing take time. The game was brought into disrepute on Saturday.
Massively.
And we cannot wait.
Yeah, but you're not
months.
going to get to the bottom of it. So what you need to do is make a statement, like you said, of doing something a little bit extreme to both clubs involved. Because there's not a chance now you're going to find you're not going to get to the bottom of it unless you want to take it.
I was going to say one of the things that I found the most disturbing was that when these pictures were being relayed, there wasn't a single steward. Nobody came in to break up whatever was happening. You know, when normally there's an incident at a ground, you see stewards coming in and at least trying to keep people apart or trying to separate the two parties. There was nothing. So one thing that Catalan have to be brought to book for is the fact that there was no stewarding in an area where you had rival sets of fans. And that is something that you need to then take to the rest. One thing that has to happen out of all of this is there has to be recommendations for the sport as a whole, because this has happened on more occasions than we care to admit, merely by saying we're a family game and putting out this ridiculous statement saying rugby league is a family game, please be nice to each other. That's not enough, and it hasn't been enough for years. You've been to grounds where you've seen leery people that need more than just a tannoy announcement. So we need to decide the stewarding levels that we need, and if that's involved extra cost, then so be it. I think other things that we perhaps might learn out of something like this is that clearly alcohol and sun don't mix, and maybe games that kick off in Perpignan in July and August should be 3 o'clock in the afternoon rather than 6 o'clock in the evening, because again, prevention is better than cure. If you can spend all day drinking in the hot sun, it's a heady cocktail. But the other thing that it cannot be related to is anything that happened on the pitch. I don't accept that anything James Child may or may not have done had any relation to the behaviour of people who took it into their own hands.
I agree with that. Absolutely, I agree.
So we need
that.
to take that away from it. We've been a sport for 120 years where the whole of the essence of it is physical on the field, and that has never spilled off the field. We have had hundreds of thousands of games where there's been an element of teams confronting each other. Fans don't need to do that. That's all on the field. So even if there's been contentious decisions, even if there's been players overstepping the mark, that has to be dealt with by the disciplinary committee.
Couple of things then.
So all of the people who went on social media and blame the referee, they need to look at it.
Yeah, forget about them idiots, to be honest with you. Blaming. You can't blame James Shell for anything.
Not
yeah, he could have been a lot stronger. You know, that's the only.
But that's
the only
in
thing
the
I would say.
context
Yeah,
of the game. That doesn't excuse behaviour.
If players want to take things into their hands, they will do it, and he can't do anything else. So 3 things here then, Phil. Let's go back to the semi-final with Leeds and Hull fans. You know, from my point of view, for what happened there, I think did they get fined £50,000 suspended for 2 years or something? Well, realistically, Hull should have been kicked out for the Challenge Cup for 2 years, but nothing happened. Salford, when they played at Huddersfield, that realistically got swept under the carpet. There was nothing done there. And then also as well, when we're talking about fines and when we're looking at seriousness, because for me, what I saw on Saturday, that is the worst. That is the worst sort of hooliganism. And hooliganism being mentioned in Rugby League, it's ridiculous because we're not part of that. But what I'm saying is here, Phil, what I'm saying about with the 4 points, £100,000 from there, Castleford fans, and they really wasn't chatting, were they, about the Gareth Thomas situation. What did they get fined? £50,000. So can you tell me? Can you tell me exactly, Phil? So can you tell me what we saw on Saturday? What we saw on Saturday is nowhere near like, say, if these get a Portley. Oh well, a slap on the wrist and you're getting a £25,000 suspended for how long? Is it worse than the Gareth Thomas situation for Castleford? It's absolutely pathetic.
A precedent set.
They need some crystals. The people at the top need some crystals.
An investigation first, and that has to be quick.
Oh, mate. But well, do you know what, Phil? This is me. You're getting 4 points, you're getting underground, and now we'll investigate. But this is what's happening. This is what's happening. You're getting 4 points deducted and you're getting £100,000 fine. And do you know what? If the club say we're not paying £100,000, well, you are, because we give distribution money, so we're not giving you it. Do you know what I mean? And then we can investigate it. Then the investigators can take as long as what he wants. But there has got to be a precedent set, because if it isn't, it gives everybody a free go. It gives everybody a free go.
We are coming off the back of a weekend, of course, last weekend, where we had to come on this programme and talk about A, Hull FC fans being racist, because they were, and B, Hull FC fans throwing bottles on the pitch, because they did, and C, which also got unreported because kind of got swept under the carpet because everyone forgot about it at the end, Halifax fans coming on the pitch at the end of the match against St Helens, which is also illegal and you're not allowed to do. So, as Ian points out on Facebook, it is all our fault, and he's right. We've let everything get to this point, and it's fair enough people blaming James Charles. He does his job. If the players don't want to listen to him, then they'll get their just desserts upcoming. Someone's trying to blame Warrington's media team, but that's nonsense. Just because Wolfie does some daft things on social media. People have to take responsibility for their own actions, whether that's on the field or off the field. The players have to take responsibility. And I saw plenty of ex-players on social media on Saturday night saying, "Oh, it's nothing to do with us. Oh no, it's you know." The fans in the crowd, they make the decision. We go back to the players who take cocaine and then blame it on this, that, and the other. Their decisions. Your decision to punch someone in the crowd. It's your decision to do that.
Something serious has happened with the Rugby League crowd over time. There is no self-censorship anymore.
It's been bubbling.
So, but when I first went to the game as a third generation watcher, I wouldn't have behaved in front of a grandfather and a father with anything other than the expectation of a clip round the ear. There is no self-censorship in the Rugby League crowd anymore. The world has moved.
Well, that's not just Rugby League, though, is it?
No,
that's
no. But if you've promoted yourself as the family sport, and that's not true. If the only reason we're a family sport is because families go, but the behaviour on the terraces is not geared to where you would... I had a lot of people contacting me over social media on the weekend saying, I don't take my kids to Rugby League. That is really sad.
That's like saying that a teacher doesn't do their job anymore because kids' behaviour's got worse.
But you have controls, and there are...
But they are not always useful or...
But there are protocols. We don't even have the protocols.
We have the protocols in terms of the stewarding, like you say. If Catalan is that the problem, that Catalan didn't have the stewards in place.
As a sport, we don't have enough stewarding.
And what can the stewards do really?
Well,
it's probably on minimum wage.
No, it's active stewarding. It's not stewards that stand there and just... Because in a lot of cases, if a fight breaks out, a steward is told not to get involved there. They're not active stewards.
Well, one thing we don't want to happen in Rugby League, and because... If it does, then, as I say, it'll just lose it all for the support. So we don't want segregation. That is not what we are all about.
It happens.
We are where people can go on the grounds, have a drink with the away supporters and all the sort of home supporters and this sort of thing. And then if they want to go stand like do Edlin and all stand with themselves, but we want people to enjoy each other's company, enjoy the banter. What I would say for the full 80 minutes. Then we'll see you again when we come up with. But one thing we don't want is segregation. And I'll tell you what. If it comes to that, there'll be absolutely thousands going away from the greatest game of all. But this needs to be stamping out ASAP.
The fact that we have to find out why some fans who are passionate, dedicated fans feel that it's the wrong environment to take their kids. We have to find out that if people are saying alcohol is an issue, do we allow alcohol to be sold in the lead up and allow people to drink on the terraces if it's going to be an issue?
Right, I'll just read out again. From this Warrington person who's put it in the League Express. Is he
anonymous though, which you've got to be careful.
Well, it's here in black and white. I'm not saying that Warrington fans were angels, but we're not, and condone their actions in the slightest. However, there are a few that follow us that like a scrap. What's all that about? So they know they know who the hooligans are at Warrington. Why do they want them there?
It's not just Warrington.
So you're putting the onus then on the fans to therefore got to take it forward to the clubs, haven't you?
Identify them.
Yeah.
And get them out, get them away from the game.
So if you're saying I'm not taking my kids now because of X, Y, and Z, why are you not going to the club then and saying
this
you're
is the reason why? Yeah.
And therefore, whoever stood in seat, block, whatever, because you generally go to the same places, don't they? And then do it that way. So then the onus is on the fans, and if you are. It's like
we all have to take responsibility.
No, if you're complaining about it, are you doing anything about it? Or are you just sitting there being a keyboard warrior?
Here's Kevin saying, Phil, you're jumping on the bandwagon after one game.
No,
we've got to stop it.
This has been going on for a long time.
So how many games are we to this sort of thing then? How many games have we got to get into? About a dozen before we start doing something.
But this is the extreme, isn't it? But there are. I can remember going to a Challenge Cup semi-final in 1977 at Odsal, where fighting broke out between Featherstone fans and Leeds fans. This is not an isolated jump on the bandwagon incident. This is the worst that we've seen, and it was on television.
What happened to that Halifax fan at Featherstone in the Premiership final there? You know, somebody got disabled for life and whatever. You know, so this has just been bubbling and bubbling. Featherstone over the last month or so were fined what £10,000 for, and they had segregation at their game between Leigh fans and whatever. This is one thing we don't want in rugby league. We do not want segregation.
So the first thing you need to do is acknowledge it, that it is an issue.
Correct.
And then you need to deal with it.
Quickly.
At the moment, we've got too many fans that don't even want to acknowledge it.
Well, do you know what? If they think they are so-called rugby league fans, we don't want them. We don't want you in the game. Simple as that.
When was the Cast
We
win the
don't.
semi-final? 2014? Yeah, because when they played Leeds in the final, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mm.
So that's 5 years ago. Wakefield is segregating now because of incidents between Wakefield and Cast fans on a Friday night game. That was a good timing. With boozing, it wasn't even televised. I think it might have been Good Friday because I was there. It's one of the 2 times I've seen punching on the terraces. And that's why the Mobile Rocket is now segregated.
The game has not done enough. Merely putting out a Tano announcement that everybody actually laughs at.
Correct.
Well, David says here, is this the same Phil Kaplan who thinks it's a good idea to promote rather more than intense rivalries, say, between Wigan and Saints or the 2 Hulls? You can promote games as fixtures people want to see without wanting to go and punch people.
The game is built on rivalry.
Of course it is.
But historically, it's not built on sets of fans intimidating each other to the extent that it forms violence. And all that was reported on Saturday night was the incidents at the game.
Yeah.
Accidentally, nothing was reported on St Helens had won the League Leaders Shield that night. And bad news sells, unfortunately. So we have to face up to this.
Yeah, I mean, we have had a couple of tweets saying, oh, the BBC have reported on it.
Of course they
Of course they've got to do. We can't pretend it didn't happen, because it happened. It was on
Anybody
TV,
who was a true rugby league fan watching those scenes come in could only have felt completely disheartened. Because so many people work so hard to try and portray this sport and get it the media space that we think it deserves. When one incident like that happens, that is going to dominate.
Do you know what? Around about, I'd say at least 10 people have said to me, whenever I've been, you know, I was even the answer the Sunday morning, 3 people came up to me and said, "Hey, Schoey, did you see that last night?" I said, "Yeah, disgraceful." And do you know what they said, Phil? They said, "Do you know what?" They said, "I had to watch it 2 or 3 times to say, hold on, this is a game of rugby league. This does not happen in rugby league. This sort of hooliganism does not." All right, you can accept a couple of fights and all this sort of thing from there, but at the end of it, you can't accept that. No way, mate. Players just taking their own responsibility. That is not acceptable. But then, with the people said, I said at least 3 people, even on Sunday morning and up till now, it's about, and I say, but a dozen people, and they've had to watch it 2 or 3 times to believe that it's a game of rugby league. Sorry, but this needs sorting out ASAP. Forget about your investigation. You've seen it all, and that is what I would do if I was in charge of the Rugby Football League. Simple as that.
And we know that now, I think.
Unless there's anything on social media.
Apart from, Schoey's taking all their points away, so I'm trying to work out what the league table means now if Catalans and Warrington have 4 points.
Do you know what? I couldn't care less where they are in the position as well. If they were bottom, I couldn't care less. If they're the top and what have you, this needs to be dealt with very, very hard. No harsh. There's no blame game here. It's them 2 clubs, 100%. They are to blame each. It's as simple
I think
as
there
that.
is another issue here which is tangentially related, and that is both of the coaches afterwards came out and slaughtered the referee. That doesn't help. Again, they should
be fine.
I'm thinking that
when
the disciplinary is announced,
Yeah.
both of those coaches should be charged for bringing the game into disrepute.
Well,
Because they saw the incidents that happened, they realised how volatile the situation was. To mention the referee at all in a press conference straight afterwards is irresponsible.
Well, it needs dealing with. It needs dealing with Arsenal because
But we have to come to terms with the fact that it's something within our sport that we all need to deal with. The sport itself needs to make a statement.
of course it does.
We need to make the environment welcoming to bring everybody who is staying away at the moment back to the game. We need to enshrine our core values, which, as you quite rightly say, are we're able to stand together and appreciate what we're watching on the field and admire the players who, you know, since time immemorial have been the people we admire more than anything. But fans don't need to take it into their own hands. The incident is on the field. It's why we go and watch and admire. We have to get back to that, and the sport needs to do something. The interesting thing will be is who does it. Is it the Super League or is it the RFA?
Well, you know what, at the end of the day...
Because this is another problem with when you've got a divided administration.
Right.
It's a Super League competition, and it's the RFL.
Yeah, but it's happening in Championship as well, isn't it? So essentially...
But they need to come together. I know we made a joint statement, but somebody needs to decide who is handing out the sanction.
Well, it's quite simple. Common sense has to prevail. The common sense fact is, Rugby League, it's all about Rugby League. It's not about who's Super League. It's not about who the RFL channel are, even from the Championship and League One. This is all about the greatest game of all, which is Rugby League. And it's suffered heavily at the weekend. And it needs sorting out ASAP, and it needs some leadership. It needs somebody to grow some crystals.
That's what I mean about, is it the leadership of Robert Elster, or is it the leadership of Ralph Rimmer?
Do you know what? If I had the pair of them, bust their heads together and say, listen, you
well,
two.
This is where they need to come together.
Listen, you two.
I'm not sure violence is the answer.
I'm on about like a bit of common sense, a bit of simplicity here. Listen, did you not see what happened on Saturday? This is all about Rugby League. I'll tell you what, if this happened in Australia, they wouldn't. I'm going to swear like you did there. But they wouldn't. If anything happened like this in Australia, they wouldn't mess about.
Well,
do you know why? Because it's all about promoting the game. It's all about marketing. It's all about sponsors. It's all about TV. It's all about kids coming to play rugby.
I understand there was a bland statement on Saturday night saying we're in bed. By Monday, today, 6 o'clock when we started, there should have been another statement.
I agree with you. This all should have been behind closed or whatever. This should have been done with telephone calls, text messages, CFAX messages, whatever message you want to do with social media, right? All this should have been done over the weekend and say, right, I want you in my office, whether it's Elston, whether it's Rimmer, or the pair of them, wherever they are, I want you for the chairman, the CEO, the coach, and the captain. You're in my office, and this is what's happening.
We are issuing a statement on Monday about where we are taking this investigation.
Because you know what, we all love the greatest game of all, don't we? We all love the greatest game of all. Absolutely.
Because it's destroying a lot of what we're all trying. You're trying to do it as players and.
What I was witnessing on Saturday, it upset me. It upset me. It did. You know, and I played in an era where there was a little bit of thuggery and all this sort of a so-called softening up period. But I tell you what, in the end, we had the respect for the referee. You know what I mean?
The other thing is about the players is whatever has gone on the field, whether it be Warrington, Catalans or any game you might have been at this weekend, the one thing you can guarantee is that when the hooter goes, the players will shake each other's hands. Those that used to play with each other will put their arms around each other. Whatever misdemeanour has gone on, it's forgiven and forgotten the minute the hooter goes. Fans have got to behave the same way.
Rob says you're looking bored, Danica, so we'll try and entertain you now.
Sorry, I'm just, I feel like a little bit of a referee.
Sorry.
I like it.
Well,
there is no answer other than I think we're all frustrated by what we saw. And there needs to be a reaction.